It's 6:01. I'd like to call to order the Board of Education meeting for Monday, June 27th. If everyone would rise to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have all members present except for Ryan Osmus and Jeff Hires. And we need an adoption of the agenda, including the supplemental personnel report.
I'll make a motion. Adopt the agenda and the supplemental report.
Okay.
I second.
We have a motion by Tracy and a second by Tammy. All in favor? 0. And approval of bills. I was able to come in, I guess that was last Friday, and look them over, and everything seemed to be in order. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the bills.
I second that.
We have a motion by Lisa and a second by Barbara. All in favor? 5-0. And we have no special presentations. Next up, we have recognition of visitors. Persons may present ideas or concerns regarding USD 443 schools. No action will be taken by the board at this meeting. Personalities and behavior of employees are not to be presented during this period, but are to be reported to the employee's immediate supervisor. The president shall determine the amount of time to be spent for citizen participation. If you'd like to address the board, please approach the podium. Seeing no one, we'll move forward. Next up, we have the consent agenda, which includes the approval of personnel, including the supplemental personnel report, the approval of minutes for our June 13th board meeting, the approval of Head Start duration supplement grant application for Bright Beginnings, and approval of Parents as Teacher Grant Award for Bright Beginnings.
I make a motion for approval for consent agenda.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion by Tammy and a second by Tracy. All in favor? 5-0. All right, next up we have new business, curriculum and instruction. Who are we starting with? Is that with Tammy? Okay. Welcome, Tammy.
All right, good evening. I wanted to update you a little bit on the curriculum audit. The first few days after school was out, we had teachers from all the elementary buildings representing all the different grade levels, the instructional coaches, and several building administrators. They all got together for 3 days. And they went in and they just dug in deep into the curriculum that we're currently using, all the subject matters, looking at standards, what we have. And with the language and literacy team, they really led them through kind of a long-term planning, goal setting, what we have, what we want, what it's going to take to get there, those types of things. And so through that process, we have kind of a 2 to 5 year long-term plan where we really dug in and looked at assessments, looked at the instructional pieces that we have. Teachers and coaches felt pretty confident in the materials that we had. There's some that we needed to kind of build up a little bit. Science and social studies, they really felt that they needed a better understanding of some of the newer standards. And they were looking at data showing that the math curriculum was really giving some good student data. The kids were doing well on the state assessment in those higher ranges. So plans forward as we were going through and we're deciding on what's going to be really loose and what's going to be tight in the sense of expectations from buildings and different grade levels. We're going to put some committees together to look at some of the specific content area. We're going to do some planning on bringing in some people to help with some staff development on some things that they've asked for. So we think we got a lot of really good, a lot of good work, but then a lot of good things to build on for the future. So, do you guys have any questions?
Was that is there a physical form, a physical copy of that audit, or?
We have some documents in a Google Drive we could probably pull. What we did is in that we kind of went in with what we have, what we want, and then kind of a plan. And so we have that kind of stuff in a document.
Would you be willing to share that
Sure.
with the board?
Sure,
Okay,
sure.
great.
Don't we plan on putting it in, we can review if it's something we can put in there, or we can put links to it, either one.
Yeah, and we're in some of the draft form still. We've got some meetings coming up in July, and I know that some coaches and teachers were finishing working on some of the math pieces. So do you want the drafts that we have, or and then we can always update later, or do you want to wait until we
Go ahead and do the
kind of
drafts.
done with the?
Go ahead and do the draft, so that way they have a perspective of what
That
we're
sounds
talking
good,
about.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Could you give me a sense of how many of you there were that met?
I'm going to have to try to think. We had, I think, 7 or 8 of the instructional coaches, probably 3, 4 administrators. Some were there all 3 days, and then some kind of came in and out. A teacher from each building, so 9. And then Judy and I were there. And then we had 3 of the people from language and literacy helping. So it was neat. It was neat to hear the positives, but then seriously discuss what was not working for them. But it wasn't a complaint session type of thing. It was really like, we're going to dig in and get some work done. So it was neat to see. Yeah. And I guess I should include too, the teachers that were not physically involved, they sent out a survey prior to school getting out and asked specific questions about the ELA and the math and the science and social studies and the materials that we had and different things. And so all teachers had an opportunity to give input, and each survey had over 100 or right around 100 people that responded. So even though you just had 10-ish teachers, their voices were represented. So, yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, board members, Superintendent Cunningham, good evening. And next item that we're going to be talking about is our proposal for a C-team wrestling program to be added to Dodge City High School. This is very similar to what we did with the soccer team. We currently have about 45 wrestlers that are participating. 14 of them are non-varsity, and they're lacking on the number of events that they get to access. And we're hoping that with the increased participation, and they expect that to continue to grow, that this will allow them to have more activities for more events, competitive events for the wrestlers. It is relatively very low cost. About $2,500 will come out of the athletics budget. About $2,500 will come from our general fund to support this. We're going to be using existing facilities, existing transportation that's already occurring with the other events on the same nights. So we'll just be doing a C-team addition to it. As far as the cost, it'll be an assistant coach is mainly the larger portion of it. And on page 18, page 18, as you can see the information, the breakdown on the costs. That'll give you how it's dispersed. But we feel like this is in line with the other sports that we're offering C-teams with, and with the level of student participation. And of course, we see good benefits as far as academics when kids are connecting to the school. So we'd like to keep as many as possible, and this invites more younger athletes to participate.
So Coach Luters is one of my favorite people, so I asked him if there was anything that he'd like me to pass along. And he's a math guy, so we've got data here. So he said we started with 72 wrestlers this year and ended with 53. And he said we could keep more out with a C team. We have 4 coaches, and it means that to begin the year, they had a 18-to-1 wrestler to coach ratio. This is the worst ratio of all sports programs. He said the season before he took over, the team ended with 15 wrestlers. His first year, they ended with 47 wrestlers. And he says that means we saw over a 300% increase in participation his first year as a coach. And in the 8-year span that he's been here, it's been the most successful 8-year span in Dodge City High School history for wrestling. And he says we've seen roughly a 1,300% increase in average student attendance at dual meets since he took over. So
Wow.
Do you know how far they're going to have to travel? I can't imagine.
It's the exact same competitive schedules that we're dealing with right now.
They're just gonna have one more later.
Okay.
They'll just have another one before the JV, they'll have a CT. So all happen on the same time.
That's where the same facility, same transportation, all, it's existing already, so we won't be adding costs there.
I'll make a motion to approve the addition of a Dodge City High School C-Team wrestling team.
all right, we've got a motion by Tracy and a second by Brian. All in favor? 5-0.
Our next item is going to be found on page 19 through 24, and this is dealing with career cruising. This is a career development software package and platform. This, we are currently using a vendor called Cooter. It's the Career Pipeline. It has been the most popular for many years on a smaller scale because it doesn't do the full suite of services that Career Cruising does. Career Cruising is the largest product nationwide because it carries a complete suite of different products that I'll go over with you just shortly. This, we received word on Friday that the state selected Career Cruising as a state preferred vendor, and that they met 25 different criteria in order to achieve that. The difference in the ability between Career Pipeline and Career Cruising, the Career Pipeline provides us with a structure how we can map our CTE students and getting them through pathways. That's our existing, different career tech courses. But the state now is requiring for every student from middle school up, and they're encouraging it to even go down as low as kindergarten, that every student will have an individual plan of study, an IPS. And the IPS will be a portfolio of everything that a student's doing towards their post-high school graduation education preparation. It'll carry their surveys of interest inventories, aptitude tests. It'll have their scheduling of their courses that they take. It's a check to see if they look and they say, well, I want to go to a four-year college and I want to do medicine, or if I want to be a veterinarian. They will select their courses that will help prepare them for that outcome. If they were saying, well, I want to go in the military and or police or first responder type of work, that career path would have a different look to it possibly for the courses they want to take. If they want to go into ag, or if they want to go into business or any of the other types of fields, each student individualizes that pathway they want to look at. Instead of just CTE students, every student would now be on an individual plan of study, and that course, that allows the parents and the students to see the courses, the course descriptions, and even career fields, when they go and select, it will say, what do you need? Career Cruising provides these short descriptions in student-friendly language where they can go to different careers and select and say, these are the type of courses that you want to take to prepare you for this career. And they can browse and look at the different careers. They could select maybe 3 and put them and load them into their system, and then that would give them the pathways, and as they go up through each year, they would select and pick their courses as they try to refine where they actually want to be when they come out of the graduation. It also has curriculum that allows us to prevent career development curriculum. And part of that is exploration. Some of it, though, is dealing with employability skills. It's teaching them how to do an interview, how to do resumes, how to do an application, what's the best ways for positive communication with the potential employers, how do you seek letters of reference, who should be your references for different fields. Those type of educational pieces are put in. And it does teach things about the importance, like character traits, being on time, what is the value of integrity, how do you problem solve and things, those type of employer skills. It gives little activities that they can do. It gives them research that they can access and read about, and it gives them some practice, and then they can build pieces and put it into a portfolio. So as they do resumes, they can build a resume that they can adjust for each of the 3 pathways that maybe they pick. There's no limit. They can have 5, they can have 10 if they really don't know where they want to be. But they try to tell each kid to come up with at least 3 general areas of interest that you might be. Someone may be very committed to a specific area, so they may reduce it down and have a more concise target for when they get out. Other students don't have a clear picture, so they may be very broad. They might say, well, you know, if I go to college, I'd like to do this. If I don't go to college, I might want to do this. If I don't even go to junior college and I want to go to a trade, I might do this. And so they could pick 3 completely different areas, and they can start that exploration. Career Cruising gives us that platform. It gives us a curriculum, and it gives us the ability to track, document, put all this information in basically a one-place storehouse of all that information. The other advantage is that while we are a member of Career Cruising, the student can access this information electronically at any time. If we ever go to discontinue with Career Cruising, when we go to pull out, we can download that information and hard store it on ours. And then the kids can access it, and what they would recommend is that we would communicate that this information is available for them to download, take with them, and they can take their transcripts, their portfolios, et cetera. But they can do all of that electronically. It ties to our Skyward system, and it'll work with our counselors so that if they do, you've heard about e-transcripts that the colleges are using now, this can be sent in the same version. It can go to colleges, it can go to employers, whatever that person wants to send it, he or she could just go in and select the items they want to send and send them electronically direct from Career Cruising to their other source. So they do all that electronic credentialing just like with universities. And it posts the grades back and forth. It's a communication tool for the parents. They can log in just like with Skyward. They can see all of the information. Not just academic, but they can see what their kids' career interests and what their aptitude tests are. And there's various aptitude tests. They can load the military ASVAB test in there. They can load, and then there's private vendor type that come through Career Cruising that they go on and take, and it gives them different explorations of their aptitude that they might, in recommendations where they might go. Additional information, you see the invoice for us. Because they were the preferred vendor, there's a possibility that we will get reimbursed for the transition cost from Cooter to Career Cruising. We do not know for sure yet what that amount of money would be, and in fact, whether the legislators are actually going to release that money now that they have spent $38 million to support the schools. So we are waiting for that information to see if it actually does come down and to what degree. Originally, it was estimated that we would get about $8,000 of that invoice reimbursed to us, but we felt like this is an expenditure that we need to make. It has so much more than what our current system does. Middle school and high school counselors went through this system extensively. They compared it to other products as well. They went through about 5 different product reviews, and this is the one that they selected as being the most easy to interact with the most offerings for our students and our staff. So this is it's a grassroots recommendation coming to us. It's not top down, it's coming from our staff up, and the request for them. They really feel that this is going to help. Career Cruising allows us right now to be 6 through 12. But if we ever want to add on, we could actually go in and add elementaries. But we feel like the documentation portion in that really starts at the middle school level, whereas the elementaries would be doing more of the orientation to careers and more career exploration than actually doing documenting and portfolio building. So we felt like middle school was a good starting point versus paying for the elementaries to be added on at this time. But if it expands and the kids start doing that type of things that they want documented, we could certainly look at that in the future. You also have an implementation information there as far as key personnel. and how many. It's not that complicated for our personnel. It's really between 4 and 8 hours, depending on what level of training that you're going to receive. And they have webinars, and they can access at any time to reinforce the training and look at. And of course, there's customer service for them also. There is also a link and information that you can access if you want to get more detailed information on career cruising. But overall, we feel it's an excellent career development opportunity for our students, and it should be very easy to manage. We expect our advisory periods to take a great advantage of this and working with kids and helping to talk to them and having them check frequently with career cruising so they can see if they are on track as they look at their schedules and they're doing their scheduling for each of the semesters, that they can make sure they're on course or make edits as they feel they want to with their careers. Any questions?
Does it offer any kind of assistance for students that perhaps don't know what they're interested in, like aptitude tests or?
When you take, the first thing it'll do is bring the, especially at middle school level, but this, because it's new, it'll be all the grade levels, 6 through 12. They'll take a career interest survey, and that's actually a few of those surveys. And that's to get people start thinking. It gives them results back and lets them say, what you've shown in your interest inventory, these are your top 5 areas. We recommend that you look at 3 of the 5 to start researching more in depth. And then it'll give them some hints on where they can go for research on the job. And there's links within Career Cruising. They can actually go and choose and start getting some more information. There's activities they can take place. There's actually little games and things in certain of the career fields they can go and start looking at. Then it'll encourage them to take the aptitude test. And when they take the aptitude test, that's going to compare their academic abilities of and their general knowledge in different career fields. And it's going to come back and say, your strengths are associated with these type of careers. And then you look, and it gives you, and it will do a comparison between your interest surveys and your aptitude test, and allow them to start going, okay, these align, okay? Because I might say I want to be an astronaut, but my math scores may be very, very low. So I have to make a decision. If I'm going to go for that career, then what am I going to do to prep myself to compensate and get to the math skills that I need to achieve that? It doesn't say you can't do it. It says, what are you going to need to do? And that's where you would sit down with the counselors and teachers and plan about what are going to be steps to progression to get you to that if you truly want to do that as your career. And so that's the steps, and it starts leading you and helping the say, this time would be a great time for you to go see your counselor about these courses. And it gives talking points for the advisory teachers to sit down with kids and say, okay, this is what you've picked as your dream. Where do you stand on this? What are your aptitudes showing? If this is a weakness, what do you want to take to strengthen this? What do you want to have to help you to individualize your educational opportunities to match where you're trying to go? And that's all these conversations will start taking place.
Okay, so it's going to be counselors and then what teachers? I mean, like how many?
Well, eventually, every advisory teacher who's working with kids will know how to access this, to be able to get on the system, look at what the students' career interest inventories recommendations were, what the aptitude recommendations were. They'll be able to see the schedules. They'll be able to see what the student has chosen for their outcomes that they're trying to go to, if they have them. They may still be in that non-committed mode, but that again, that's an indication where the teacher should be having conversations with the student. So every teacher who's working with students, and that's, it varies a little bit by who we assign in our advisory periods, but large majority of our teachers are going to be on this system, being able to work with kids.
Is that information accessible from home?
Yes, it is. If they have internet access, they will be able to access it from home. And it's kind of similar to how you can check your academics. You'll be able to just log in, go in. You'll be able to see the grades and then all this vocational information at the same time. And you can actually send messages and they're all supervised messaging. There's no private messaging, so it's all able to be supervised and checked for security and safety from our district point of view. But there is a messaging system that can occur between parents, students, and the teachers. But it's private in the district system, but it's not private in the communications. It's viewed and supervised.
Sounds good.
Yeah, wish I would've had this back in my day.
Yeah, me too.
Sorry, I said I wish I would've had it back, 7,000 years ago.
There was a senior that made a statement that he wishes that he had realized how important, what he needed to have for when he graduated, and if he had realized that, he wouldn't have blown off middle school. Because with social promotion, because we don't want 18-year-old fifth graders and sixth graders, kids tend to move up through the system, and they do it when they get to high school, then everything hits. And they've given up some of that preparation, no matter how much, you can lead the horse to water sometimes, but it's hard to get them to do what they need to do. But when he realized how much harder he had to work in high school in order to graduate. And he said, I wish I'd have known what I needed to know when I was in middle school. I wouldn't have clowned around and blew off those classes. I'd have been better prepared. Well, this is a way to be able to reach those kids earlier, to get them to start making those decisions and seeing what is important to them starting in sixth grade. So we're asking you for the ability to approve this for us for the start of this coming school year, for 16-17 school year, to enable us to work with career cruising.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
My second.
We have a motion by Brian and a second by Tammy. All in favor? 5-0.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Glenn.
Thank you.
All right, public information. Yolanda?
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Cunningham, Madam President. You have in front of you this year's 2016-2017 community calendar. The calendar is an excellent communication tool, and it also gives us a vehicle by which to deliver mandatory annual notices. It's produced with an online version. As much as we try to make sure that everything in the calendar is correct when we go to print, things inevitably change, so there is an online version on our website so that people can stay updated as things change. The district also saves about $20,000 a year by doing 100% of the work in-house. Designing, layout, producing, sorting, boxing, all of it is done in-house, so it saves about $20,000 a year on that. This year we mailed out 12,047 calendars at a postage cost of just over $1,000. We also then print calendars for each of the employees, and then we always take extras up to the Learning Center so that when new families come in throughout the year, they have access to a calendar. Also, I know we sent these out on Thursday, and today I got, 3 emails from different businesses in town requesting additional calendars. So we always try to have some on hand for that. So total cost this year was $3,829.30. That's actually a savings of about $550 from last year. And we attribute that to, first of all, lower postage costs, and then for some reason the post office sent us fewer addresses this year. So we actually sent out just about 100 fewer calendars than we have in the past. So any questions on the calendar? Like I said, they went out Thursday, and then I think they were delivered to all employees on Friday.
I got mine in the mail
Yeah,
Friday or Saturday, I
Good.
don't remember.
yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thanks, Yolanda. All right, Human Resources, Ramona?
Good evening, Madam President, board members, and Superintendent Cunningham. It's my pleasure tonight to give you an update on the human resources, particularly the openings. As you probably know, trying to keep track of those this time of year is like shooting at a moving target. So even from what you have in your board packet, I have some additional updates. I'd like to tell you that we have 5 certified openings. That's pre-K, kindergarten, 5th grade, a life skills opening, and a mid-level math opening. We have a counselor opening and a librarian opening. We have interviews on Wednesday for potential counselor candidate, so we're excited about that. We have had a lot of success, some really bright young student teachers coming into our district from a variety of the higher ed institutions across the state. And we have secured those people to have teaching positions with the district after their student teaching experience. Of course, it will be contingent upon them completing that requirement as long as they're, as well as their testing requirements and other academic requirements with our university. We're very excited to have those young people come into our district, and they seem to be excited to be here as well. So we've had a lot of success with that. There are a few of these open positions that there is a contingency plan for maybe making some movement within the district or some substitute plans. So I don't feel like any of them are just going to leave us out in the cold if we are not able to fill those positions. We also have several classified positions open, and we're working to fill those as well. One of the ones that I'm most excited about is the HVAC technician position that's been open since October. We have some movement on that and some interest, and so Mr. Hammond and Chris Myers are working toward visiting with an individual that has applied, and possibly a couple others that haven't applied but might if we give them a little bit of a nudge. So we're excited about the movement in that area as well. Trying to see what else I have here. I have just lots of notes. I'm excited that we found a music teacher, we think, today. This is a person that has a degree in music but does not have certification, so we will be working with them either through K-State or Fort Hays to put them in the Transition to Teach program. And as you know from my board notes, I've been to Fort Hays and visited with Carrie Shuckman on how to work in that program with some candidates in our area. So I'm excited that we have some interest in teachers going through that program. So that is my report. Do you have any questions for me?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We're a whole lot closer to being full than
Yeah,
we have been in a couple, 3 years.
Yeah, that's great.
that's good.
Thanks, Ramona. Business services.
Good evening. Let's see if I can find where I start here. I've got too much paper tonight. Please forgive me. There's more things going on. First, we'd look at page 29 on the agenda. And 29 is basically an updated energy management policy. It's been a number of years since this has been updated, and these were recommendations were made by Morris Reeves, the district energy manager. And I think they're pretty self-explanatory. They kind of respond to some changes in our district as we've moved to student iPads and some changes in control systems and so forth. So there's quite a bit of information there. We think it's just good policy. We've ongoingly, as a district, tried to conserve energy, save money, but yet provide an appropriate learning environment. So if there are any questions, I'll try to respond to those. If not, if the board would respectfully request to adopt the revisions to the board regulations EAB-R, Energy Conservation Guidelines, as submitted.
I make a motion to that effect.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Barbara and a second by Tracy. All in favor? 5-0.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is one that I'm not even sure completely where to start with, to be quite candid. It's on this building. I believe in this building that we've had a number of things come up over the years, and consistently, I believe the administration and the board have determined that we wanted to spend money on kids, we wanted to spend money on classrooms and facilities that were going to directly affect learning. And I think those have been good decisions. But I guess when the bricks start falling out of the front end of the building, it's time to do something. And I don't know how else to put it. We have a situation, and there's information in your packet tonight where there's a variety of proposals to take care of that, but it's just the beginning of other things around the building on the exterior that need to be taken care of. We've heard of estimates that it could be up to $300,000-$400,000 just to fix the exterior of the building. We have issues with ADA. We've had people come in here who, and I'm going to give kudos to my staff, to the staff from Human Resources. We've had people show up in wheelchairs who really don't want to try our elevator. And candidly, I can't blame them. And we've tried to take those services to them, and so far nobody's complained bad enough where we've had an Office of Civil Rights or, some lawsuit or something. It's estimated by some people that because the elevator to be large enough to meet ADA standards, you have to be able to get in it and turn around in it. The shaft has to be completely redone. They estimate maybe $400,000 on that. Sidewalk, steps, and walls, a preliminary estimate of just kind of doing a quick fix is about $100,000 to really fix the problem. Again, we've got information that estimates up to $400,000 on that. Parking has always been a problem here. We have tried to evaluate the houses on the other side over here. If we could buy them for just their listed appraised value, put a parking lot in without considering the cost of trying to get people from that parking lot into the building in a handicapped accessible manner, that's another $750,000. We have issues in this building that have to do with HVAC systems, air quality issues. A lot of things just aren't up to date by current standards. I think given those things, maybe it's time that we really start to seriously consider looking for a better facility to house the administrative services of the district and also possibly the learning center activities of the district. That's a large thing to accomplish, but I think that we have taken care of our kids. We passed a bond issue that's going to take care of an awful lot of our concerns, and maybe it's time to move forward on that. Some of the things that we've talked about is develop a plan to bring the current building up to code. I cannot recommend it based on discussions I've had with our architects and builders and so forth. I think it'd be a significant amount of money, and I really don't think we'd get the benefit of the dollars we'd invest. We've talked about purchasing the Learning Center and Formal Trails West building, remodel for administration building. We've had conversations with Jim Waters, who owns that facility. The dilemma is when we really start analyzing the amount of space we use for this and the Learning Center and some growth and the food service facility that's at the wrong place at Memorial Stadium, just stacking on top of each other, we don't think we'll end up with a good plan long term. We could possibly lease or purchase and renovate another property in the community. There's at least one or two that might be considered for that. Really don't want to mention anything publicly because the price might kind of creep up a little bit on us, and we don't have that desire. We could move the lower level of the administration building to the lower level of Sewell. We talked about that. We think there's space constraints there that would not allow us to really have both the administration building and the learning center together. Really no room for growth, and it eliminates other possibilities that we may need those academic spaces for in the future. And we could possibly build a new facility adjacent to the Civic Center. So there really are no financial considerations to this time, but as an administrative team, I think we're looking to the board. You have a lot of information. I guess we'd ask, would you direct us to look at options to do something with an administrative facility that would serve the district in the future? And I guess that's maybe a place to start and ask for questions.
I have a concern about what's going to happen to this building. What is the likelihood that if it were vacated, that it would ever find a buyer? And to what extent does the district still remain on the hook for taking care of dangerous conditions like we have now, where people are in some jeopardy if they use our sidewalks and things fall on them?
I think that's an excellent question. I have spoken with the city. I don't think they're interested in this building. Based on the other two buildings in town, if you look at the former Manor of the Plains, do I have the right name?
Trinity also.
Trinity
Manor.
The Trinity building, I mean, there's been a number of people look at that. It has not come to fruition. And also, it seems like even the Hennessy Hall at the former campus, it's used partially but not fully. The dilemma you're going to have at one time, I'm in a community I lived in, somehow, some buildings like this were turned into senior housing. I'm afraid today the cost is just going to be significantly higher than the value, even with tax credits and so forth. My sense is you're probably going to see this building torn down. Now, that doesn't mean I'm recommending that. That's just saying that would be, I think we should offer it. If there's groups that could make use of it and figure out a way to make it used, that'd be great. It just kind of past the point where it can be used for us.
I think there's way too much going wrong with this building to think about renovating or keeping it. I think it's time for us to look at other options.
I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
if that is the direction of the board, if you would, take an action, so that gives us the authority to kind of start looking at options, and we'll do a very serious job of looking at the space we really need today, but also try to plan for the future, because this district is a growing district. And as a growing district, you have to kind of plan for that a little bit.
Okay.
I make a motion for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Tammy and a second by Brian. All in favor? 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
And we'll try to keep the board informed as we move forward and have discussions about this. And please, if you have any questions, please contact us and move forward on that. The next item on the list is Chris Meyer, and he's going to give a capital outlay update. Chris, thank you.
Good evening. Quick list, carpet is installed at Sunnyside. We're getting started on Northwest. All the water fountains are in for Central. We'll be starting them before school gets out. The new lock sets for all of the doors in the hallways are in. We'll install them as we get time. All the district furniture is installed. New sound system for Memorial Stadium is ordered and should be in by football season. Clocks for Bright Beginnings, Alted, and Will Roads are in Dodge City and are being installed as we speak. HVAC replacement at Sunnyside is underway. All the units are in Dodge City. We're going to install them on Wednesday. So if you want to come and look at a big crane, come down to Sunnyside on Wednesday. The fire alarm at the Civic Center is complete. We are waiting on the fire hatches and the fire curtain. So we've had a busy summer and can't believe it's already half over. Any questions?
Well, Chris, you said the sound system for the stadium should be, that's the wrong wording there, I think.
It will be.
Okay. That's better.
Chris, remember, we were home at the first game of the year.
Right.
No pressure.
No pressure.
I
Right?
have this vision of Chris with this mega horn out there. I'm sorry. It's been a long day, folks.
Thanks, Chris.
The next item on the list, Chris, thanks for that update. We appreciate it. Chris and his crew deserve kudos. They do an awful lot in this district, and I think sometimes we take them for granted, and it's amazing what gets done around here, and we appreciate the support of the board in making those things happen. The next item on the list is the partial guaranteed maximum price for electrical service upgrades and relocation of water line at Dodge City High School. As you're aware, with the passage of the bond issue, we have to relocate some of the electrical services. And also, there is a water line that goes around the high school that basically has fire plugs attached to it. And we have to inch it out so that the building won't destroy it when we build the building. So they'd like to get those two items done this summer. And Chris, I don't know if we have a schedule on that or not. Got to get it approved first, okay. But anyway, the hope is we can do it this summer and get those things taken care of. And so we'd request that approval of partial guaranteed maximum price for Dodge City High School in the amount of $103,182 for electrical service upgrades and $56,000 for relocation of the water line. Funding will come from the bond project, and I understand those are within the budgeted amounts, so it shouldn't create a problem. But again, a lot of times all this is done at one time when you approve a bid, but with the way we're working on the construction manager at risk, we can go ahead and get these things done before we're ready to quite approve the whole project. So. There was a discussion on that, Chris. I don't know what the latest on, or was it going to be Christmas?
More than likely it'll be over Christmas.
Okay.
It'll be what? What'd you say?
It may be Christmas when we do the water line. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, really.
I'll make a motion to approve the partial guaranteed maximum price for the electrical service upgrades and relocation of the water line at the high school.
Second. Well said. We have a motion by Tracy and a second by Barbara. All in favor? 5-0.
The next item on the list this evening is Demon Field improvements, and this is one of the places where we had concerns expressed by some persons with disabilities in our community. When you look at Demon Field, which is the baseball field, there really isn't any good way to get to the field if you're in a wheelchair, and that was just the bottom line. That's kind of what started this discussion. The second thing, while we had restrooms at Demon Field, they really in no way were handicapped accessible. They didn't even come close. So we started off with a discussion, we really needed to replace the restrooms to make them ADA. We looked at remodeling the current ones. By the time we remodeled them and redid everything, it was going to cost probably more than new ones. So anyway, as this thing progressed, while we had an original estimate of $250,000, that estimate, for whatever reason, did not include the associated concrete work to get ADA access with the wheelchair to the bleachers. Nor did it include, we decided to rework as we got into this, the current concession stand restroom. They're going to put some dressing areas in there for referees and umpires, or I guess is it umpires in baseball? I always get that confused. And finally, the district has really come forth, and the board's been very clear, we like to have storm-protected areas. So the new restroom will have a hard lid on it, so it does become a storm-protected area, which we think makes some sense. So while the prices came in a little higher than the original estimate, we think it's a good value, and we would recommend this evening that the board would approve the bid from Building Solutions in the amount of $393,000 to be paid from the Capital Outlay Fund. We do have the resources there to take care of this, and the board is further requested to authorize the board clerk to issue a purchase order and sign a contract subject to review by board council.
Is there anything on that we can make it come a little bit closer to budget? I know there's a school across the street, so for a storm-protected area, as fast as storms come up in the spring, I think people could make it to that storm-protected area. That's a huge difference on the original budgeted.
Right. And I think the thing that happened is the original budget, for whatever reason that we presented, was only really the restrooms. It was not the restrooms as a storm-protected area. Did not include the remodel of the current restrooms, because what we're going to do is do some remodeling in there so we actually have a good place for the referees and so forth to dress. So that's the increase. And so if you want to remove the storm-protected area, or if you don't want to do the remodel, that would be the two things. Our sense was, as we looked at the project, we felt like by the end of the day, yes, we're spending some money, but we think it's something we won't have to touch that area again for 10 or 15 years. That's kind of what we were trying to come up with. Again, if the board directs us, we can go back and ask to reprice either one of those items.
Do you know what the price breakdown is if we took one of the two of those items out?
I really don't. We just bid it as a lump sum. We didn't really bid it with alternates and so forth at that point. I would not recommend we take the concrete out to get to the bleacher area, because I think that needs to be there clearly. We've had family members who just don't feel like they can see their grandson in a ball game because they just don't have the access. So that's one I could not recommend. It's just, and then there was also a situation that came up in this that, what was it, Chris, the way the water line was put in, or the property boundaries or something, we had to make some shifts on that. Property boundary, we actually had to have everything surveyed so we knew what we were building, and we were building on our property and met all the setbacks and everything, and I think that caused a little increase in cost too. So, yes?
Is this all on the Demon side, or is there some facilities and things like that on the visitor side?
Yeah, this is actually at Demon Baseball Field, not at
Yes.
Baseball field.
Right.
I was envisioning it in the wrong place.
Yes, and that's been one of the dilemmas. We have a beautiful baseball field. We've upgraded it. We've added, some artificial turf to the infield. It's a wonderful facility. And when you have people who say, I can't get there to see my kids, that's where we've been. And so that's where this really started, this project started. And then when you have somebody say, I can't, if I get there, then if I need to go to the restroom, I'm in a wheelchair, I can't use your facilities. That's really the start of this project.
What would be involved, just out of question, what might be involved if we go back and say, rebid it without the storm safe capabilities? What kind of time and any ballpark figures, what percent?
Well, what we could do is ask for some value engineering from the apparent, from the low bidder. We could ask that one and say, okay, if we didn't put the storm protected area on, or if we didn't do the remodel of the existing facility, we could ask for some numbers on that if you want to. That's a possibility. Again, the reason, as the project developed, the other thing we're trying to do is make this facility more adaptable and usable and appealable, if you will, because we feel like we could host some out-of-town tournaments and stuff and add, not only for what we need for the school, but also that brings economic development to the community.
I see the benefit of the renovations, but I guess I kind of agree with Tracy on the storm protection. We have the school across the street, and so maybe if we could see what it would save to take that out.
We can ask that question.
Yeah, I agree.
We can ask Tom to basically put a quick spec together and ask, what it would, what it would save, and we can do that. But I would recommend again that, since the bids have been received and, pretty substantial savings from Building Solutions, that we would start with them and ask what they would save by not doing storm protected. Do you want to hold that then until the July meeting if we can get back numbers, or how do you want to handle that as a board?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's,
Okay.
We get a motion to table it till the July
I
meeting.
make a motion to table.
okay, motion by Tammy and a second by Tracy to table the improvements of Demon Field.
Okay.
All in favor? 5.
I'm going to ask Bray to pass out some things. There was a question raised on workman's compensation insurance. It was a good question. The question was, had our agent fee insurance company sought other bids on that? And yes, they had. And I'll be honest, I know we talked about it at one point, but I've slept since then, so I wanted to make sure I was giving correct information. We basically went through a bid process, I think about a year and a half or so ago or 2 years ago on workman's comp. No, 1 year ago, maybe it was. Anyway, the company that we came in with, United Wisconsin Insurance, did provide a renewal quote. We did have a situation where our payroll exposure increased by 2%, i.e. we had more payroll by 2% than we had the year before. Our mod increased by 2 points, and normally when your modification factor goes up, your premiums go up for workman's comp. And so we were, really pretty grateful that we really came in with a bid and a quote that was less than what we paid the previous year. So we felt like that was a pretty aggressive situation on the insurance part. So it dropped from $325,000 to $309,449. I would note that all workman's comp insurance is bid on a audit basis. So as our payrolls will go up, they will finally adjust those to actual numbers, and you do pay or receive a benefit at the end of the year depending on what your actual payrolls are. That's just the way those policies work. So anyway, any questions? The Board of Education respectfully requests to contract with United Wisconsin Insurance Company for workers' compensation insurance at a coverage estimated at $309,449, and authorize the board clerk to sign contracts and issue a purchase order for same, subject to review by board council.
I make a motion, go ahead.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Motion by Brian,
I'll second.
second by Tammy. All in favor? 5-0.
Okay. Let's see. The next item that we have this evening is, approval of the Sunnyside Elementary roof bid. We had, as part of the capital outlay budget, and this is kind of interesting on these budgets, sometimes you come up ahead and sometimes you come up behind. Sunnyside had some unique situations. Is that a fair way to say it, Chris? That it was challenges, and that was a good way. We had parts of that roof, as you know, Sunnyside's been added onto several times. And so in trying to design the roof, we tried to add some, what do they call them when you have the slight increases and decreases? Crickets. I've never heard that word before. We talked about Sunnyside, but there are crickets that we're building into the roof, so hopefully it will not pond any water. Because the sooner you get water off a roof, the better the roof is, and you just have better luck. So those were designed, and the bid price, there were 2 bids received, one from Diamond Roofing and one from Weathercraft Roofing. And basically, we had estimated the cost of the project at $570,000, but Diamond Roofing gave us a bid of $390,000. So we feel like that's a pretty good bid. For full disclosure this evening, part of Sunnyside roof did have hail damage on it, which includes the other parts of the roof. This is about 75% of the Sunnyside roof. Well, the rest of the building did receive some hail damage, and we're reviewing what we really need to do with the rest of the roof there. There are several options, and we've had discussions with Diamond Roofing, with the insurance underwriter, with our architect, and Chris has been part of those. And so what we may do before this is all over, we'll probably be coming back to you with a recommendation to work on the rest of the Sunnyside roof and do some additional work and get that all taken care of. But we're not quite there this evening. We don't have the final proposal. But we thought we could go ahead and award this, get the materials ordered, and get going on it. Any questions on that one?
Oh, I like saving.
I'm really glad to see a local company
Yeah.
getting the bid.
And savings. All right, I'll make a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion by Tammy, second by Brian. All in favor? 5-0.
The next item that we have, and for some reason I have two Sunnyside roof bids in here. The next one is the insurance storm damage settlement, and you have some information about that. We have been very diligent, I think, and deliberate in our efforts on this. Two things have happened since the last board meeting. Item one is, yeah, I've got it. Thank you, Glenn. Glenn takes care of me over here. I appreciate that, Glenn. I can lose things pretty quick up here, too. We originally had numbers from the insurance company where they were unwilling to pay for bid bonds. Well, as you're aware, we have a legal obligation. If we have bids of a certain amount, we have to, by statute, have have those projects bonded. And the insurance company did capitulate in that, and so now they're also willing to pay for the bonds for Sewell Elementary and Lynn Elementary, and those amounts were $3,571 and $2,960 respectively. So those will increase the amounts that we had as a maximum price that the board approved at the last meeting. We've also looked now at Dodge City High School and the Civic Center in the amount of $1,696,724.20, and the Civic Center Storage Building roof an amount of $12,531.80. And those we did have performance specs put together by our architect. So we are getting our standard roof system, which is a modified bitumen. And if you want to hear about that, I'll let Chris come up and explain that to you. No takers. I'm sorry, Chris. I tried. But we think it's a good roof system, and we think it's one that has served the district well in other buildings. So this evening, we would request that the board would approve the roofing from the bond cost. By the way, this is a nice thing to be able to approve because all the money is coming from the insurance company. Other than our $25,000 deductible and our architectural fees, that's it. There is one more point in here I'd make. I am asking in this proposal to hire the architect to look at Dodge City Middle School. Dodge City Middle School has 15 different sections of roof on it. Yes. We have everything from build-up roofs to modified bitumen to rock ballast. We have all sorts of different roofs on Dodge City Middle School. We are working through that. We're not sure one size fits all at Dodge City Middle School, but we want to make sure the repairs that we do are going to give the district the most value long-term. So what we'll probably be coming back with after we put this all together is we will probably take the insurance settlement and use some of the money we normally use each year for roofs and update that roof and really get a lot of things taken care of at one time. But with 15 different kinds, you can see that we've had several discussions, and we just aren't quite there yet, but we are moving forward on it. So we will move forward on that one. Any questions on all this?
On the letter that EMC sent you, on, it's page 3, it's saying that they want us to move forward immediately. How quickly are we going to get going on this?
Well, we're expecting materials delivered at, okay, the materials for the two that we approved are here today, and probably within a month on the high school, and then hopefully, I'm hopeful that I'll be back to you in the first board meeting in July, and we'll look at the Dodge City Middle School is probably the last critical one, and I don't know that I'll get the rest of them done by then. So, but we're trying to move pretty fast, and I think the insurance company realizes we are, because even if we approved them all, I'm not sure Diamond or anybody else could get all on them all at once.
Yeah.
Diamond will be bringing in crews, even though they're a local company. They do have affiliates, as you're aware, in other towns, and they've already discussed they'll be bringing crews in from their other affiliates to meet our needs in this situation. So, I feel pretty good about that.
Make a motion to approve the insurance storm damage settlement and repairs.
Okay. Second. Motion by Tracy and a second by Barbara. All in favor? 5-0.
Okay. The final thing that's come up this evening, and if you have any questions, I may turn to Ms. Weiss this evening. With the passage of the bond issue, the high school faculty and administration has spent a significant amount of time looking at potential furniture. Learning, I am informed, and this isn't my side of the house, so I have to trust these people, learning has changed the way it happens in classrooms. Is that a fair statement? And they feel like, what? Okay. Anyway, what they have done is they have looked at some steel case furniture We have an option to buy it through E&I, which we had our legal counsel review that purchasing agreement. He said it did meet the state bid requirements. And there's also some special considerations given to this because this is not only for furniture, but also from your point of view, this is also helping to train teachers. Okay, Jackie.
It's including, the amount of money is including the professional development that our staff will go through to transition into an active learning and instructional environment.
So this is really an opportunity for us. This is a pilot program, and Jackie used the word pilot program earlier. So we will try this out. It gives us an opportunity to do this before we decide to buy a whole wing or a lot more of this furniture and make sure it's really going to serve the needs of our students for the foreseeable future. So that's why we're requesting this approval this evening.
So that will be used, this furniture will be used this next,
We'll start in the fall. It will transition through 8 different teachers' classrooms over the course of the next 2 school years.
okay, so it'll be moved around, so different.
Every academic area, every academic house will have exposure to it. And all of it was selected by student consent from student. This is what they wanted to try out.
Neat.
I'm a visual person, I want pictures. I'm a visual person, I want pictures.
I can give it to you. I can send it.
Do you need pictures before you
No,
vote?
no.
Okay. I make a motion for approval for purchase of furniture at DCHS.
Second.
We have a motion by Tammy and a second by Brian. All in favor? 5-0.
Pictures,
If I might have a point of privilege this evening, I thought the board might want to be updated on the latest on finance of schools with the result of the legislative session. That would be acceptable.
Yes, go ahead.
With the final bill that's passed the legislature, the best information we have, which we believe is complete and accurate, we will lose $600 for virtual education next year. So that's
Okay.
what it is. We will gain, however, $424,755 in capital outlay. So we thought that was pretty good news. We were in favor of that. The final item in this thing is a little more difficult to understand, and that is the LOB. Our district will receive $333,300. That doesn't mean we have $333,300 more to spend. It may mean that we'll take $333,300 that we won't have to try to fund LOB with. And we were really trying to scramble to figure out how we're going to meet the LOB with less money from the state. So it is good news, and we're grateful for that. I do have some news that isn't quite as good. The block grant this year basically cost us $930,000. As you remember, the block grant is we're going to give you so much money, it really doesn't matter if your enrollment goes up or down. I have compared it to somebody who gets an agreement for them to build a house, and they decide that they need a place for their mother-in-law to come stay, and they don't want to give the builder any more money. The state basically gave us a set amount of money, and even though we had increased enrollment and waiting last year of about 278 FTE, we didn't get any more money. So we lost about, in fact, almost $1 million because of that. This next year, that means we would have lost the $1 million last year, plus we would have normally added the 30% LOB, expecting to be able to do that. So this next year, we were basically about $1.4 million down because of the block grant. So there's some good news. There's some other things that we still hope that in the long term, the legislature will take care of us. But just wanted to kind of give that update to you. If you have any questions, please feel free to call. I've got those numbers, and I'd be happy to share them in great detail if anybody would like them. Any questions? Thank you all so much this evening.
Thanks, Bill.
Ready for me?
Yes, sir.
Good news is school will be open this fall.
Yeah.
Thanks to a bipartisan action by our legislature last Friday, equalization aid for for supplemental general fund, or LOB, was passed. And as a result, you heard from Bill, our district will receive about $330,000 in equalization aid that we hadn't planned on. What we are yet to figure out for sure is whether or not that can go into classrooms and into our budget, or whether that goes to property tax relief or some combination of the two for our local taxpayers. So we'll be working on that. The bottom line for us is that school's open, and that the governor said he will sign this legislation Both the state's attorney and the schools for fair funding attorneys have both agreed that if the governor signs this, it will be acceptable to both parties in the lawsuit, that it meets the conditions set forth by the Supreme Court. So both attorneys have said it's a go.
So Alan, if both attorneys agree, then the Supreme Court is satisfied? Is that?
Well, I don't know if they're satisfied. I think they still have to do a judicial review, but I think hearing from both parties that they accept the decision or the action, I think will make their job a whole lot simpler. There won't be any having to argue one case, one side or the other. The way it was funded, it's somebody had to do some work, and we appreciate the work that they had to go through to get here, to get to that $38 million. It found money in several different pots, and if you get your Kansas Association of School Boards newsletters, it goes through where those pots were. The one thing I'm very concerned about is some of it's coming out of the tobacco settlement, which was typically used to fund early childhood education programs in the state. So I don't know, and haven't had a chance to talk to Tammy yet to see if they know if this, $10.5 million coming out of the tobacco lawsuit money, how much of that would have been earmarked for current programs for early childhood or potential additional programs. And I don't know if you're ready to.
We don't have numbers, but I know our KPP program will be impacted. They haven't given us amounts yet, and they said they're moving that into TANF. Going to fund that through TANF funding, which gives us a whole lot more regulations and that kind of stuff. That's the same place they put the PAT money. But we will probably see some, but right now, it's not, we don't think it's going to be huge.
Significant. It's not going to change our program
We
significantly.
don't think so right now.
Okay.
Mr. Cunningham, the governor tweeted out that he signed the bill at 5 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay, great. I hadn't seen that yet. So it's back in the Supreme Court's hands, and we figure that'll be quick and easy. And like I said, the best news for our staff and for our students and our families is that school will be open and ready to go on time and hopefully in good order. The remainder of the case, if you'll remember, the Supreme Court cut our case into two pieces. One had to do with equity, and that's what's been resolved by the action of the legislature. The other part has to do with adequacy, the total amount available for public education, and that portion of the lawsuit's due to be heard sometime this fall. And then the entire block grant funding formula is due to expire at the end of the 2016-17 school year with the promise of a totally new or different school funding formula. So we'll see how that goes in the next legislative session. But good news is, school doors will open at all of our schools on time in August.
Yay.
Okay, that's all I have on that one. And then number 2, I think, is on page 46. And I know, Lisa, you wanted to talk about this one, about KASB Superintendent Search Services.
We had, as you're all aware, we had Doug Meckel with KASB out last time. He kind of worked with us, and we have that information. He kind of compiled that information for us on helping us with goal setting, and then talked to us about the superintendent search. And I would like to propose or recommend that we hire KASB to help us with our superintendent search. There are other services out there. The cost for KASB to help us is about $6,000. If we looked at somebody else, it's about $20,000. And I feel like KASB has a good handle of candidates that might suit us well. So that's why I would like to recommend KASB to help us with the superintendent search. We do have the money in the Board of Education, is it fund or what?
Board of Education expense
Budget for that, for those monies, so.
I think I estimated on your consideration sheet approximately $7,500, which would include some per diem type expenses for them to be out and work with us, or some per diem expenses to potentially bring candidates into the district. So I think the consideration asks for your consideration of approximately $7,500. And there are sufficient funds, actually even remaining in this year's budget, to do that.
Do you have any examples or know of any examples in Kansas that have used the
KASB service?
Right.
Garden did, didn't they?
Garden did, and I actually have had the opportunity, been asked by KASB to serve on screening teams for them as they screen superintendent candidates for other districts. I've done 2 fairly large-sized districts in the last year, and the process they use is very, very thorough and very impressive. And the latest district was actually at Hayes, and they got, I believe they had like 21 applicants for the position, and we screened those down based on criteria established by the board. They screened those candidates down to 4 or 5 or 6, and then the board chose among those 4 or 5 or 6 who to interview. It was all at the board. The screening team from KASB did exactly what the board asked them to do, nothing more, nothing less. So really, you are in the driver's seat as to how you want this to happen. If you want them to go out and basically pick your last 2 or 3 candidates for you, they will do that. If you want them to bring back a report to you of the strengths and weaknesses of each of the top 10 candidates, they will do that for you. This is not something our districts had to do for a number of years, so it's going to be new to all of us. But I have been very, very impressed with KASB's process. And there are more districts in Kansas that use KASB than there are that don't. So it's they've honed this skill and marketed it very well, and have been very successful, or other people wouldn't be asking them to do it for them. They also will solicit applications from outside the state of Kansas. They don't limit themselves to just us. One of the things I think Mr. Meckel said was that since they have affiliates in every state in the union, like KASB, they also share the resources in recruiting of all those state affiliates to bring candidates into Kansas. So I would have full confidence in you using that as a process.
Did you make a motion?
No.
No?
I will make a motion.
No, that's what I was asking. I couldn't, and when you were saying that, I didn't know if you made the motion, so.
Yeah, I will go ahead and make a motion that we hire KASB to assist with the superintendent search services.
No, I second.
We have a motion by Lisa and a second by Tammy. All in favor? 5-0. And before we move on, I do want to talk to the board for just a minute. With the superintendent search in the next 6 months or so, 8 months, whatever, there's going to be more asked of us as far as meetings and research and things like that. So I just want you all to be aware that we're going to have to step up to the plate a little bit, and because we definitely want to do everything that we can do to get the right person to replace Alan. Also, I would like to see, I've talked to the 2 board members that aren't present tonight. When I first came on the board, we had, I think it was maybe not an all-day, but it was a workshop or a session that kind of, we had Bill come and he talked about the finances, the LOB, and how that works, and all of those things. And we had the different
Departments.
Yeah, different departments kind of briefed us on the workings of their departments, and I think it would be a good idea to do that again. What are your thoughts?
I think it'd be great. I mean, just to have a refresher, and then us to have some time as a board together. And, yes.
Right. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. So if we could work on scheduling that.
Just let me know.
Okay. Does a Saturday of any particular, does that work, or would it be better to do several evenings, or is there a preference what works best for people?
Because you are probably going to have some additional meetings as we get into bond issues and guaranteed maximum prices on the different the different projects. We don't want to wait till a board meeting, a regularly scheduled board meeting. if we can get something started sooner.
Right,
So there'll be a lot on your plate.
right.
So what kind of time frame are you thinking this would be,
For the
training?
the training.
Or the orientation.
I'm not really, I haven't really thought that far through. I mean, we could go ahead and try and do it yet this summer if we wanted to. I don't know if time is easier for people in the summer.
Depends on what weekend, I guess.
Yeah,
Maybe it would help if you asked if people have plans now that they know that they're going to be out of the area or unavailable. And then you can take a look at that and see whether there's any times that we have a highest number of people available,
okay.
maybe even all.
So, are we violating open meetings if I have them each email me?
No, you're not asking for their opinion on an issue.
Okay,
You're just talking about availability.
right, okay, so if all of you would email to me, open Saturdays, for like July and August, and we'll see if we can make something in that time work.
I would just remind you that if we do this for the 7 or so departments we have in the district, I know what we put Mr. Mashik here through with new board member orientation.
Yeah.
And you walk out, if you get too much of it at one time, you walk out kind of in a stupor. You've got a lot of information and you're not able to absorb all of it. So we tried to break it into bite-sized pieces, and it's still a pretty significant amount of information. So if you would like to do it in one day, we can do it in a day, but you're going to get a lot of information. If you'd like to do it in 2 or 3 afternoons, we could do that, or even just in 4 or 5 2-hour sessions. Just whatever works best for your schedule, we'll accommodate it.
Personally, I'm not sure I want to do 4 or 5 sessions. I don't know. That seems kind of too much for me. I don't know.
That's
But, I agree that maybe 1 is not enough time, or trying to shove too much information down our throats. A couple sessions, does that,
Break it into 2.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
okay? And so if you, when you give me your dates, if you would indicate whether like morning or afternoon or evening would work best for you.
Saturdays.
Well,
Is that what
is that, do we want to do Saturdays, or we could do evenings? I mean,
Doesn't matter to me. Either one is fine with me.
Don't matter to me either.
What do you want? Just let us know what you want, what part you want us to respond to.
Maybe we need to do that, find out how many prefer evenings to Saturdays with our schedules or something.
okay, so do you prefer Saturdays, or do you prefer?
Either one's fine with me.
Okay,
I don't have a preference.
No preference.
There you go. So you're down to 2
Madam
people.
President,
well, I guess,
check with the guys too, because
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know how easy it is for them to get away for a half a day.
right. I guess I'm kind of leaning towards a Saturday. I know that imposes on our staff.
It's only a couple times, probably only once for each group, so.
Okay,
You want our Saturdays for July and August?
uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay. All right. That'd be fine.
See if we can find a couple that will work for everybody. Okay,
So are they going to be sending you then dates when they're not available? Is that what you'd like to do, or do you want Deb to send something out from our office? We can do it either way.
maybe that would be better to have, if you don't mind, Deb. Okay,
Okay?
thank you. Okay, enough of that. All right, we have Board of Education member district responsibilities. And Brian, when we have our first meeting in July, then you'll get some of these. We're putting you down on the list for all of them.
I'm not giving.
New guy.
I don't want it, so you can have it.
Okay, we have Park and Rec Advisory Board, Barb.
Okay, Just wanted to note that we met on the 14th of June and noted that the Long Branch Lagoon was open on June 4th. It is doing very well. And Dodge City Legends Park is in full swing with numerous tournaments taking place there during the summer. That's the essence.
Okay. And Bright Beginnings, Head Start?
Thanks to Tammy giving me the highlights of the last meeting because I probably didn't take great notes. They received notice of the award for the 2 Kansas Early Head Start grants, Head Start federal grant, PAT grant, and submitted the dosage duration grant, which we voted on earlier. Right now, they're focused on summer cleaning in that transition. They're still taking applications for next year. The numbers are on track for what they're expecting, and they have 1 teaching position open and plan to have that posted, try to get some additional exposure.
Great. Sounds good. Barbara, do you have anything on special education?
We met on June 21st at the District 613 location, and there was a quorum, and we affirmed a pay increase of a substantial one for the employees that are working throughout the district, and also an increase for the substitute teachers.
Well, good. Legislative, I guess we pretty much covered that.
Important part.
Yeah. Capital outlay, we've covered that. Calendar, we've covered that. We've just done a good job today. We have Tammy scheduled to review bills for next meeting. Announcements, Monday, July 11th, Board of Education organizational meeting at 6 o'clock. Thursday, August 4th, Enrollment Day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday, August 8th, 2016, Board of Education meeting at 6 o'clock. Wednesday, August 10th, new teacher orientation and introduction at the Learning Center at 10:30. That is, if board members can attend that, will be introduced there. And then, do we have any items for future board meetings or additional information?
I'd like to get an update on the crisis plan, if there's been any changes in the last year, or what our plan is for the next year, any new projects, or how often they're meeting, things like that.
Okay. Can we do that? Okay. Anything else? All right. Tammy, you're up.
Executive session.
No executive session.
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Tammy and a second by Tracy. All in favor? 5-0. Thank you, everyone.